Welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla, a sex-positive hour of talk about kink, sexual mores, and writing dirty words. So grab a cup of cocoa, your favorite easy chair, and the lube as we go sailing into the dark, sweet waters of all things naughty. On Licking Non-Vanilla with your hosts Ralph Greco Jr. and M. Christian.
Hey everybody, welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla. I am one of your hosts. My name is Ralph Greco Jr. I live on the east coast of the is it contiguous United States? I think that's what it's called. And on the other side, almost all the way on the other side, is...
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian from Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, we were just talking about the weather, weren't we, Chris?
I know, fascinating conversation. Here we are.
Yeah, I know.
Two hardcore foreign people, and we're talking about the weather.
That's what we do, yeah. It's like what Chris was saying, that, because in Jersey we definitely get the change of season, and Chris is not used to the cold, just exactly the way it's been over there. And we were saying he used to live in the Bay Area, and when it gets cold over there, sometimes in June he could hit some cold in San Francisco. And Chris was saying, what were you saying, Chris, about the cold in San Francisco?
Oh, San Francisco is like, was there a couple of years when it got really real icy, and people aren't used to it. So, they freak out when things like pipes burst or, ice blocks things. It's just like, from other people, they're used to it. It's like, no problem, but if you're in the Bay Area, it's just like, oh my God, this is freaking me out.
And Chris was saying something too. Chris, what about the Victorians with the plumbing? That was an interesting point. I never know that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because I never thought about it. But Victorian buildings in San Francisco, in fact, a lot of places in the West Coast, their plumbing's on the outside. And, that's something you just take for granted. You're just used to it. But the reason why is because it never gets cold enough for the freezing.
Right.
And then, of course, what happens is when you have pipes that are bursting, people are freaking out. But, here in Eugene, it does get cold and it does get rainy. It doesn't get horribly, snowy. But our friend Jean Marie talks about snowpocalypse that happened a couple of, before I came up here where, for them it was horrible because, they got enough snow to block the streets and they only have 1.5 snow plows.
Right. It's fun, and thanks for mentioning Jean Marie because it reminds me of something I could do a plug here. Jean Marie and Word Woos, our buddy Jim over at Word Woos, just put out a book of mine.
Oh, cool!
Called Naughty Shorts, which is 34 real short erotic stories, and I'm just happy to have something out with Jean Marie again because I'm very happy when I could work with Jean Marie in any kind of level because she's the primary publisher of our stuff, basically, and we're very happy that she is that way and has been keep doing it what she's doing. And Chris and I go way back. Chris goes even back further with her than I do.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's out, Ralphie. That's congratulations. You ought to be sure and promote it like crazy. Let me know what I can do to help because
it's out. It's
cool.
Out, and you could. I think I probably blogged about it on the blog. That's another thing too. I've been trying to keep up with the blog with the Licking Non-Vanilla blog. So if you listen to Licking Non-Vanilla, which is what this program is, check out the blog and check out our tweets and twats because they lead back to the blog. And I've been doing a lot of things with with keeping up with press releases from a lot of the agents that I'm getting them from. So getting a lot of news there now too, which is something I think is really important. So I'm checking a text here at the moment. And right now too, Chris and I are waiting on somebody, a guest to call in. We're hoping she calls in, but how these things happen. Things come up in the modern world, right? You never know, and who knows what. So we're hoping to get her on today. She's a mistress from the West Coast. And I found her through a company, and I'm going to give them a little shout out, Chris, if I may.
Sure.
Online, called Century Cycle Femdom. And it looks like a grouping of femdom ladies. which is pretty interesting, I think. And we're waiting. She's a mistress, and we're waiting for her to get her on. But if we don't, we will keep going. So, Chris, did you hear? And I don't know how big, because you and I have talked about this before. you're a music fan, but you're not like a guy, like a music fan like I am, because I'm a musician. You're not. But did you hear that Jeff Beck died?
No, I didn't hear
Guitarist
that.
Jeff Beck, yeah. I was just talking to our producer about this. Jeff Beck is one of the seminal English electric guitarists. With Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton. There's and we. In the know, I think all those guys are great. All these great, but Jeff Beck is like one of these players that's just on a whole different level. And Jeff Beck died on the 10th, I think, and so it's a pretty big loss. But as we get the age we are, Chris, we're losing people.
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, it's like I didn't know he was either that old or something had happened to him. That's upsetting because even though I'm not great about music, I do know who Jeff Beck is. So it's kind of like, oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the people are dropping like flies, Chris. All these people we love are just, it's what happens when you get our age. Our contemporaries are the people that we grew up loving, and they're starting to go. They're getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Although guys like Keith Richards probably will never die. He's going to outlive us all.
No.
But
he's immortal. That's all there is to it. I mean, when you sign a deal with the devil, you got to make sure you use his agent because otherwise it's over. I can't remember, I think it was Anthony Bourdain who said this. Like he's on the the Keith Richards diet or something like this. It's like he's never going to die. Same kind of thing. It's like when Keith Richards dies, the world ends. That's all there is to it. It's
that's just inside the apocalypse. Absolutely.
Exactly. He's keeping everything going.
And in the last week was AVN, which is the big porn convention, and also XBiz had their thing at the beginning of January in LA. They have a kind of an award ceremony and convention, and then AVN has the one in Las Vegas that Chris and I we get press passes for, and we keep saying we're going to go, and we haven't gone yet. And what's fun about AVN especially is that they have a really big fan convention, kind of like Exotica, beforehand. And then I think the electronics convention is around the same time. So there's a lot of it's very busy for that week, a lot of stuff going on. And so the fans get to meet the porn stars, and the porn stars go to AVN, and then they do a whole bunch of, they give their awards. And that's, again, something that I've been putting a lot on our blog, updating on who wins what. And there's been a lot of those awards. So that was pretty relatively recent in the adult entertainment world. And then, like Chris and I know, this time of year, it's just kind of, right, Chris? When you say, as far as writing jobs and things that we're seeing in the adult world, it's kind of quiet, right?
Oh, it's very frustrating. I mean, it's like everyone expects the holidays to be everything dies. But then, you think, oh, it's the week after New Year's. Things should be getting back up to speed. And they're not. It's just like, come on. I mean, what's your excuse?
Chris and I talk about this a lot. If you happen to be a writer, especially a writer of salacious material, as we are, man, it's just, woof. I mean, nobody's making a move to do anything, really. There are these, everybody's ramping up to AVN, and then when it's over, it's just very quiet, So that's where we're at now. We're in this kind of weird post-holiday time, and it's just very quiet. And so we just keep our heads down, doing the podcast when we can, and you can find a podcast, Chris. I was looking today. Our producer has it spread a whole bunch of places. We're on Apple.
Cool.
We're on Google. We're on Google. We're on YouTube because now you have video with this too, and we're on Skyhawk Radio, which we got to get going with that a little bit. There's little stutter steps there. Red Circle. I can't even. If you just look up "Looking on Vanilla" podcast, you're going to find all the places, and that's due to our producers' tenacity, as I say, and put their stuff up. And so we want that to be the case because we want people to find us all over because there's a lot of podcasts you could choose from. We're hoping you're choosing us amongst everybody else, right? I mean,
I really appreciate that. I mean, that's wonderful. We're getting all over the place. That's fantastic. I mean, I definitely have to say I've been a little lax about getting the word out, but I think it's fascinating and wonderful. So my big applause too.
Yeah, we just have to, you keep, and when you do these kind of things, unless you got feedback, and we don't particularly get feedback, and I don't know how many people do, you don't know who you're reaching, who's hearing. I mean, occasionally we will check the metrics or whatever and see where we're being heard and where we're spiking, and it seems to be that, like any other podcast, we can be heard around the world, which is fun nowadays to have that kind of reach, right? Because you and I don't particularly have that reach all the time. I'm seeing if I got something. Hold on, everybody. I'm checking. I hate to do this to you, but I'm checking. Looks like we got some sort of
Stand
got it.
by.
Okay, so we may be having her. She said she got it. Thanks. We may be getting her any minute here. So
Cool.
if we do, we'll get about. We'll give a little. Well, we've done a lot of the show so far, so we'll do like 20 minutes with her, Mark and Chris, and then that's what we'll give her. So so we got to see. Are we meeting the time? My time right now? Yes. She probably was a little confused. Yeah. Yes.
I hope so, but if not, we can always have fun. And that's the one thing about this is no matter what we do, it's always a blast.
Yeah, we could always and I hate doing this to everybody if you're watching us because this is boring as shit watching me text. Yeah, although that's what everybody does, right?
I don't know. When you do it, Ralphie, it's always sexy. So there,
well, he's right because I'm doing it without pants.
maybe
I'm doing it with no pants on.
It's like, well, maybe it's the thumb action, maybe it's the expressions you make, but I always find it always wonderful. So yeah, no worries there. You can text as long as you want. Just don't pay no attention to me. I'll just sit here and admire.
Bastard. And Chris will show you his rocket. So yes.
Exactly. Yeah, I got the lube right here. I'm all set. So go ahead.
Yeah. And and as we say all the time, lube is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Chris? Even when you think you have enough lube,
more than less.
Right. Even when you think you had enough, you probably should re-lube, right?
God, I've been doing so many anal sex articles. It's driving me crazy. But that's becoming like my mantra. It's like always more lube than that. It's weird. It's just like it's like even though things have been slow, it's every once in a while I just sort of wake up and realize it's like how many times can I write about one thing? It's just like and people are going, oh, it must be fun. It's like, well, yeah, you try writing about anal sex first 12,000 times.
Yeah, it's funny Chris says that because sometimes we review a product, so at least there's a new spin. Whatever the product is, you can even if it's the same as you've done 800 vibrators before, at least there may be a new spin to it. Mm-hmm. But when it's on the same kind of sexual subject, anal sex, spanking, whatever that, fisting, chastity, all that stuff is interesting and wild, and it has a lot of different avenues to go. But basically, it whittles down. There's a lot of basics in that stuff, right? There's a lot of basics with say anal sex, like Chris said. One of them being go slow, lube, experiment, communication, and communication should be number one on all those things. But anyway, but yeah, after a while, especially if you're like Chris just said, if you had say you had write 5 articles on anal sex recently, it's just like what am I going to say different here? Especially if you're writing it for the same website, which we've done too, right? They're like, well, Chris, give us another one on and you're like, man, I don't know.
Well, especially since some of them can be really precise about what they want.
Yeah.
So you can't improvise. You can't do like really kind of go off the wall kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And they might have like, oh, it has to have, one of the ones I do, and I shouldn't complain because these guys are always still fantastic. And like, everyone we write for is always great. But they use an SEO program. So it's kind of like playing a video game or something like that where you have like, I have to cram this number of words and these phrases into the article or it doesn't work. So it's like, you have to be kind of a little creative with it, but it definitely gets a little weird sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard. But I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we know the subject, we know the products, or if we never met the product before, we get the product and we have to do what we have to do. But that's the job. The job is, and like Chris said, everybody thinks, oh, this is the greatest job in the world. It is a wonderful job, but it's work. It's like anything else, It takes. Now, I just heard from her. We got 4 minutes. She's coming on. In the meantime, let me tell everyone you're listening to Licking Non-Vanilla, and with me, one of your hosts, Ralph Greco Jr., and then M. Christian's over there. Yep. If you're looking, I don't know which way you're looking, but whatever way you're looking, he's over there. I don't know where he is. And then we're waiting now for Mistress Lark, who's going to come on, and she claims to be the meanest in town. So we're going to find out what makes her so mean, and we'll get a little intro. I think she's says she's working on a memoir too, which could be very interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so we're hoping to we're going to see her when she. It's funny. She's in L.A. or the West Coast, and there's always that time thing. So you say it's one time, and maybe somebody don't know what time. So there's always that kind of a weird thing. So but we're pretty open-minded and accommodating when we can be, because we really appreciate people taking the time to come on the program, because everybody's got to be somewhere doing there's a lot going on, right? Mm-hmm. And but
I'm curious about I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was curious about like if we get on, I mean, fantastic. But I'm always curious about how the pro scene in one city is different from the pro scene in another
Mm,
city.
it's a
And
good
see
point.
what
It's a good point.
kind of like what
Yeah,
the flavors are like and what the customers are like and so forth.
because we've spoken to ladies from the East Coast, and I think we spoke to definitely Doms from the East Coast, and you and I have both spoken to Doms from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed a Dom recently on for Kink Queens, and I think for Dark Side Magazine, who was in France. She
Mm.
wrote a book, and her book is about interviewing all these other Doms. So she was from
Cool.
France. So it's interesting. So like you said, like I'm always interested in how other cities. We've had this discussion millions of times. How other cities kind of do their kink. You know.
Well, I
So
know in Europe it's just part of life.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's a totally different kind of thing. I mean, even here, like if you go to Nevada, parts of Nevada, prostitution's legal. You know, and then other parts of this country, most other parts of this country, it ain't the way it is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and houses of domination are just as hidden, more or less, as anything else in this. You know, although I don't know, I wouldn't think that's illegal, right? Because there's no, there's no exchange of fluids and or sex happening in the
Oh,
house of domination,
yeah, you're completely
right?
correct. I mean, it's like as long as there's no actual sex, you're fine. But then there's always the question of whether or not the city or the powers that be are okay with it, because
Yeah,
even though you're
yeah,
not technically breaking the law, they can still make your life miserable.
right.
But and I know there's certain places where it's just sort of like it's considered like they're not going to do anything about it because it's a
Yeah, yeah,
non-issue. But other places like
right.
you have to be extra careful about it, and be a little bit more cautious about who you let to know about it. So it has to be kind of an underground thing.
Yeah, I mean, like in San Francisco with the Armory, with Kink on the Armory
Hmm.
there, it's a huge space. There's no way that nobody didn't know about that existing. I mean, it
Hmm.
was well known that it existed, and it was a place, it was a studio where they shot a lot of domination films, and all of that ilk. But I don't know. Well, there was penetration. I mean, there was some of those movies. So I'm wondering how they got away with that. I guess the city just said this is what goes on here, and they're taking over a huge piece of real estate. We're not going to mess with them. I'm assuming, right?
Hmm.
And he was well known in that city, right? The guy who ran Kink or still runs Kink.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm drawing a blank on his name, but yeah, San
Peter.
Francisco always is kind of a little mixed messages when it comes to
Yeah,
like that because some things they'll go after and make your life miserable. Other times they'll just like completely ignore it, and
yeah, yeah.
and like you said, they also invested a huge amount of money, so they're not going to crack down on them. But I understood, and this remember we've had talked about this before. It's like they did finally have to leave though because. Uh, it depends on who you talk to because one thing I've heard is that they couldn't afford the building anymore. The other
It's
thing
a
I
big.
heard
And it
is
was a
they
big building. Yeah,
is huge.
yeah, yeah.
But another thing someone heard recently, at least I heard, I think, was that the problem was that they passed out an ordinance either in San Francisco or California that sex workers or not sex workers but porn actors had to wear condoms, and that was
Yeah.
sort of like
Okay.
a possibility of why they sort of asked them to like hit the road. But
Yeah.
again, that's even sort of like I'm not even too sure if that's true or not, though it may have been a factor. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, Chris and I had both been there. I don't know if you had ever been there before. I had been there. Would you had been there before?
Me, the armory? No, the first time I was there was when we actually did it.
Oh, we went. Okay, yeah. But it was it's an armory, like Chris said. It's an ex military armory, and it's
Hmm.
huge. It's city blocks big. You know, when you pulled into that place and you pulled into the parking area was the parking area was for tanks. I mean, it was just huge, and then the building itself was just. I mean, it was just a massive place, and I could see how they couldn't afford that anymore because, oof, oof.
Oh, I mean,
So
there's
okay,
probably all kinds of reasons why. I mean, it's like everything from the property taxes to maintenance to who knows what. Because, like you said, it's a huge building. I mean,
mm,
it's like when I first heard about it, my first reaction was kind of like, wow. It's like how are you going to like be able to afford not just afford it, but it's a huge thing. I mean, you have it
oh,
could literally hold like dozens and dozens and dozens of film
yeah.
productions.
I think. Oh, there she is.
Hey
Hello,
there,
lady. How are you?
hey
Hello.
there.
I apologize for
Well,
that. I'm
don't
well.
worry. We've been rolling the show for a little bit and just BSing until you came on. So don't worry about it. I'm Ralph.
Awesome.
There's Chris. That's my other co-host, and the guy you see just sitting there,
Hi.
Mark Hitz. That's our producer. Thank you
Awesome.
very much for being
Nice to
here.
meet you. Thank you for having me.
Nice. Both Chris, Mark, and I want to know what does make you the meanest around.
Well, I'm cutthroat. I don't take no for an answer. I'm ambitious. All of it. Everything.
And as far as the services you most enjoy, what do you most enjoy in your domination? What would you say is the top? I see a lot of leash leading in your stuff, but what would you say is your top stuff you like to do?
I'm very into gender bending of all sorts, into pegging, anal gaping, the public leashing, things like
Hmm.
that.
And
Yep.
you're based on the West Coast, right? Oh,
Yes, I'm in Los
okay,
Angeles.
and that's interesting because Chris and I were just talking about this. Chris used to live in San Francisco, in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
I live in New Jersey. So, is there something that you think is particular to the LA scene when it comes to what you do?
Um, do you mean like us, the most popular kink,
Yeah, and
or what do you mean by that?
is there something indicative to LA that you said, well, I don't find this anywhere else, or something more popular in LA than is, or less popular? Like, does LA have its own? And I'm sure it does have its own flavor. New York has its flavor. Berlin has a flavor. London does. But what's the feeling in LA as far as in the business of domination? What do you find that happens a lot, or that you're being asked for services you're being asked for?
Well, I think LA is a very sensual place. I find that people in LA, as opposed to maybe the East Coast, have a little bit more of a relaxed
Oh, that's
approach
true.
that's kind of looking for a more sensual experience.
Hmm.
So I find that people out here are usually into just trying things for the first time, trying feet, foot worship, sissy play and things. There's a lot of people that just come to try something for the first time.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, I was assuming, like Chris said, right? We figured there had to be differences in the cities, right? Just a flavor of a city, right?
Yeah, I think that on the East Coast there are people that are very dedicated and committed to the kink lifestyle. I think in LA there's a lot of people, um, in the adult entertainment world and interested in all of that, but maybe haven't tried being submissive and are trying it for the first
Oh, that
time.
makes sense. Okay.
We also have a lot of young people becoming more interested now. I've noticed out
So
here.
would you say more young people to be subs, or more young people interested in being doms, or both?
Well, definitely both, but I was mentioning the
Right.
subs
Okay.
specifically. I've noticed a lot more kind of college age people
Oh, okay.
experimenting with kind of kink.
So is there? I mean, okay. So we talked about the things that you do and the things you like to do, but is there something that's a hard no for you?
I don't offer full toilet.
Okay. Okay. Good to know, right, Chris? So we're not going to go to
Absolutely.
Mistress Lark. If you're looking for that, Chris, don't not go to Mistress Lark. Okay. Um, so when we set up the interview, you and I went back and forth on text a little bit, and we always. This is great because I didn't get a chance to ask you what they ask you, what not to ask you, and everybody wants to hit some certain things. And I was very interested when you told me you started domination at 18, right? Okay.
Yes. I started professionally at
Okay.
18. I got into domination in high school.
Okay. Now that's interesting. I would say pretty interesting. Um, So you began sex work at the age of 16, you told me, right? Was that, can we say that?
I did.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how did this all happen? I mean, did you find your own personal life, you're gravitating towards more uh, wanting to dom in your sex life. But I mean, how did this progression happen? If as best you can tell us.
Well, in high school, in the 10th grade, I went to a boarding school to study creative writing and filmmaking.
Okay.
I was very into writing poetry at the time. Now I pretty much write everything. While I was there, it was there was rules, and it was interesting because it was kind of the first time in people's lives that they had been free, but we were also under the rules of a
Yeah,
school.
interesting.
So there was a constant thought of how can I bend these rules, or how can I still have fun?
I got you. Okay.
And I fell into kink. Just a friend of mine asked, "What is your favorite porn film?" And we sort of laughed because we thought we had a favorite genre, but not a favorite video specifically. We said, "Well, what is your favorite video?" And she showed it was a video of a teacher spanking the schoolgirl. And after that, she just said she really wanted to try that. And it was myself and a friend of ours who was gay, and there was no sex involved. It was all impact play, rope, candle wax, things like that. And so that was very fun. That's how I got into it. And then I've always just been a kind of very open person. I believe that people should take charge of their autonomy. I've always been, kind of on the side of sex workers. I fell into it sort of just doing here and there, like online things at a younger age, I think, than most. And then when I was 17, I was in some unfortunate circumstances. And so I was sort of in pseudo trafficking scenarios twice at 17. And so that is kind of where my heart and passion lies in, helping sex workers, especially street-based sex workers, find safety. So then one of the things that I did was I started at this place that was sort of like fronting as a dungeon, but was kind of a brothel / dungeon scenario. And I started to work there. I had already known what domination was, but at the time I was actually homeless and I just needed a place to stay. So this was going to give me a place to stay as well. When I started working there, after about half a year, I started to recognize that there were some things that didn't make sense to me. Pretty much every other girl that was there had signed up to be a personal assistant or a housekeeper or some like actual, like office sort of job, and got there, then was sort of coerced into doing this. So over time, they were trying to get me to push boundaries that I wasn't comfortable pushing. I realized that something bad was going to happen. I left. A couple weeks after I left, they were raided and they closed down.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
The writing's on the wall. You feel a vibe, for want of a better word, and something's going to happen. I think we probably, well, I don't know. It's not going to be true for Chris and I. I mean, we write in the field. We don't work in the field as you do. We write in the field. But there have been situations that we have both been in, either we're teaching at a convention or we're at a convention or at a dungeon, that one doesn't feel as safe or as good as another. And sometimes you can't even articulate what the feeling is. You just feel, like you're saying, the house doesn't feel right, the way the people act, the way the DM is. So there's a million reasons why that could be. And we always tell people, and I'm sure you say this too, safety is a major issue. And know who you're playing with and be as safe as possible, and and whatever. I mean, there's a million facets to this, but I like what you're saying. I think that's very important because you were right in the thick of it, and you saw like, wow, this is something's going down here. Yeah.
Yes, and in the situation that I fell into right before that, I was approached by a woman, and this was one of my first sex work experiences. I went to meet a woman. And when I got there, it was actually that it was the woman there um, being submissive to this guy who was very predatory. So I definitely feel like, there's safety precautions that new sex workers can take, and there's nowhere for them to go to find out about that. And so, unfortunately, many of us learn a very hard
Yeah,
way.
no kidding. Yeah, I think that we've had this discussion, debate, and we say this all the time. There's got to be there's got to be better ways for people that work for sex workers to be taken care of in a million senses, health wise and safety and all those things. And it just, but that's the nature of this country. We want to keep that stuff. We have that Puritan ethic that goes through everything, and we don't want to discuss this stuff, and people get hurt, and just it puts a bad. It just puts a bad feeling on the whole thing when it can be just empowering. People can go find what they need and feel good about themselves, like you're saying, And it's just too bad. But it's good that people like you have unfortunately been through what you've been through, but you learned, and you're doing your best to go forward and make a positive advance.
Absolutely, and that's why I like to acknowledge that there's nuance to everything, and I think sex work can also be the most empowering thing, and I found it to be the most empowering thing, and I'd like for people to be able to find that.
So another thing we were talking, you texted me about, and I want to talk about it because it seems to be you have a lot to say, and I evidently very intelligent lady, but I know you specifically have a lot to say because you are penning a memoir at the moment, right? I mean, where are we at with that, and is that going to take us through your whole journey?
Definitely the whole BDSM journey. It's a period of about roughly 5 to 6 years. There is a bit taken from past before those 5 to 6
right.
years, but mostly it's about nuance. I think at the end of this, I want people to see that things are bittersweet often. There is not necessarily a good or a bad. And a lot of times when we go through traumas or we're healing from things, it feels good to be able to say, well, that was a bad person, and that's bad. But unfortunately or fortunately, I've been able to see people in all different elements of the cycle. I definitely see how, we have a cycle being perpetuated where there's people that are very hurt in their traumas and are now, causing more pain to others.
Right.
And I've seen these things be healed through kink. So the story is really interesting because I go from being in a boarding school to then I'm on my own at 17. I then end up in a group home. Then I'm in the dominatrix dungeon. I've, had experiences living with tons of different people. I have worked with clientele that other people wouldn't work with. I've worked with sex offenders, people like that, to heal through kink. I recently was married and then divorced to a submissive. So I have a lot of different elements to this story.
Well, it sounds fascinating. I mean, I think, and you keep saying this one word, and I totally agree. This word nuance, and that's true because we being human beings, we have such complexity and such nuance, and nothing is black and white, and you can't just say, well, this lady does this kind of work, so therefore it doesn't. You can't make those conclusions, and that's healthy to not make those conclusions, but unfortunately we do, right? I mean, that's what we do, but it's empowering to have that kind of outlook and to keep doing what you're doing because what you do is, in the end, people come to you for a specific reason, and again, those reasons could be multitudinous. So any number of why they come to you for what they come to you for. So during when you're not working as a dom, what's a day like? Are you going down to get coffee? Or are you going to the gym? And what's just a flippy fun day for you when you're not working?
Well, usually most days I wake up. My slave that comes every day. He comes and does domestic chores.
Okay.
So he'll come and bring my coffee, clean the house, things like
Okay.
that. I don't drive, so I have people that drive me places. Most of the time I work from home,
Okay.
so I'm usually a homebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I go out, I enjoy eating out. Sometimes I go to bars, things like that. I try to attend as many kink events as possible.
Okay.
So I do go to most of those.
Cool. Well, Chris lived in L.A. for a while too, right? Didn't you, Chris?
Oh yeah, yep. I was born in Whittier and then lived there till I was like 13 or 14. But I've been back and forth all the time. It's a very different feeling city than a lot of other places. I mean, there's a distinct style and, like I said, for lack of a better word, again, flavor to it. I mean, I do want to go back one of these days, but I do think it's quite fascinating.
I'm an East Coast guy, but I like LA. I'm not one of those haters, and I do, and I found that I really did like. I mean, and Chris and I are older than you, much older than you, so we go way back with TV and movies and all that stuff is a great buzz. But I definitely dig LA, and I think that and you have the weather there. I got to give you that. It's brutal here. Let me tell you, you definitely have the weather. So, all right. So one last question I have for you. This is just like a kind of a housekeeping business question, and let me make sure I get this right. Okay. So Century Cycle Femdom is kind of where I found you. And I'm just been trying to decipher who they are and what they do. What is Century Cycle Femdom?
This is a Twitter user that promotes the northeast region of Dom.
Okay.
With exceptions, which I guess I'm one of the exceptions.
Right.
But he's mostly focused on body bag domination.
Okay.
So I found him because I got really into the body bag domination, and we started chatting. He was telling me about the best types.
Gotcha.
So that's how.
Yeah, I didn't know who they were. Okay. All right. We're going to have to wrap it up because we were running. And you're so interesting. We're going to have you back because you're very interesting. I like to talk to you a long time about a lot of stuff. But we love that you called in. Okay, so real fast, where can people find you? I want to hear out of I'm going to put it up on the blog and pictures and all that kind of stuff. But where can people find you?
So servemistresslark.com. That's my website, and it will always link back to everything.
Okay.
And then Mistress Lark LAX on Twitter.
Cool.
Okay. So that's where you heard it, kids. We thank you, sweet lady, very much. It's been a pleasure. And I'll send you all the stuff we need to send you. The only other thing we ask is just stay for a second when we log off because we have some recording business. So stay where you are. I'm gonna log off. This has been Licking Non Vanilla. I'm Ralph Greco, and over there is who's that?
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian.
Thanks, everybody. We're running quick with our little droogs. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Get us off, Marky.
And visit us on the web at www.lickingnonvanilla.com.